Episode 5, Water Pollution.
The previous video showed some common water quality tests. What happens if we find that the water quality is poor? What does that mean? Any body of water that has been degraded due to contamination of harmful substances is considered polluted. Water pollution is dangerous for many reasons. It damages ecosystems and human health. There are many sources of water pollution as well. This video will focus on a few different types of water pollution. First off, if you can tell where the pollution is coming from, we call that a point source pollutant. These come from distinct locations, and examples include landfills, factories, or septic pipes. These are much easier to rectify as you can tell exactly where the source is. Unfortunately, it isn't always that easy. Pollutants that enter waterways indirectly from rainfall or snowmelt are called non-point source pollutants. These are much harder to identify the source as runoff can come from large areas of land. Nutrient pollution, which we talked about in a previous video, leads to eutrophication. Cultural eutrophication is when a buildup of nitrogen and phosphorus makes its way into a body of water from human sources. A major source of this would include wastewater. Wastewater is water that has been used by people in some way, such as water from sinks, baths, toilets, etc. Remember, buildup of these nutrients cause algal blooms, which are the precursor to dead zones, which are obviously bad. Aquatic photosynthesis can also be deterred by sediment pollution. Sediments are particles that are carried by water. This is caused by erosion. We see sediment pollution in bodies of water near human development, in areas that lack healthy riparian zones and don't have a good root system necessary to hold the soil together near the stream banks. Water pollution can also come in the form of biological water pollution. This is when a pathogen or disease-causing organism or virus enters the waterway and contaminates it. Contaminated drinking water can cause many human health problems. The World Health Organization estimates that millions of people, mostly children, die every year as a result of water-related diseases that cause diarrhea. Cholera, dysentery, typhoid fever, giardia, E. coli, and salmonella are some of the most common waterborne diseases worldwide. All cause diarrhea, which, if severe enough, can lead to dehydration and death. We also have specific pollutants that impact our world oceans. It's estimated that millions of tons of oil are released into marine environments every year. Surprisingly, most oil pollution comes from smaller sources and activities on land, not the major tanker or oil rig spills like the Exxon Valdez or Deepwater Horizon. Most sources include small boats and runoff from human activities on land. Oil is hard to clean up and can be deadly to marine organisms if it gets into the fur of marine mammals or feathers of birds. Mercury is a toxic heavy metal that is found in higher levels and upper levels of the food chain. This is due to a phenomenon known as biomagnification. A major source of mercury in our oceans comes from our atmosphere. Burning fossil fuels such as coal releases mercury into the atmosphere before it is deposited onto the Earth's surface. Mercury is very persistent and can be cycled throughout our planet for years. In aquatic ecosystems, plants and small organisms take up the mercury but are not harmed by it. However, as it is persistent, it is found in the cells of organisms that are higher up in their food chain. As you go up the food chain, there are more of that toxin found in the cells of tertiary consumers or top predators in the food chain. In our oceans, fish like tuna, which would be the top predators, have high levels of methylmercury. If we eat too much of the tuna now, we are the top predators in the food chain, and now we are getting the most concentrated amounts of toxins in our cells. Mercury is a neurotoxin, so mercury poisoning can cause brain damage, especially in young children. Similar to nutrient pollution in freshwater ecosystems, high levels of nitrogen can cause red tide algal blooms in our oceans. This is toxic and incredibly dangerous to all levels of the food chain. When it comes to local water pollution, the Chesapeake Bay's major source comes from stormwater runoff. Stormwater runoff occurs when precipitation does not soak into the soil, but instead flows over impervious surfaces, such as roads or sidewalks, and that water flows through the stormwater drain straight into our waterways. This means that this water is not treated and can be carrying nutrients, trash, chemicals, and who knows what else directly into our streams and rivers and eventually the Chesapeake Bay. As stated, water pollution is incredibly dangerous for aquatic ecosystems all over the world. Pollution can create dead zones, biomagnify up the food chain, spread disease, and kill off important keystone species. Another issue includes the amount of solid waste that makes its way into our waterways and eventually our oceans. Garbage patches are large areas of ocean where marine debris collects. They're formed by our major ocean currents, or gyres. They're not solid waste islands, but they're incredibly large areas of fishing nets, plastic waste, garbage, and the most dangerous, microplastics, that can impact organisms through ingestion. The most famous, but not only, is the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which is located off the coast of California. Microplastics are not easily removed from the ocean. To clean up just a portion of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch would take over 50 ships over a year to clean up just one area. It's easier to slow the debris from entering the ocean than to clean it up after it's already there. Save the turtles. Water pollution is not good for humans because it reduces our quality of drinking water, which we already know is limited. It impacts recreational activities such as boating or swimming. We also can be impacted by disease spread or infections. All of these can impact our economy and the people who rely on these ecosystems for their way of life.